Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We're starting by taking a look back at the just concluded UN General Assembly. And for that reason, we're jumping straight into conversations on CARICOM with His Excellency David Comissiong, Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Tisha. Pleasure to be here.
Well, always great to have you with us. And it was indeed a pleasure to see how busy we were this past few days at the UN General Assembly. There was lots going on, and we had a lot of officials participating. And Prime Minister Mottley certainly took center stage on many very important issues.
Yes, well, once again, she delivered perhaps the most important speech at the General Assembly. And I want to share it with Barbadians because we have produced a political leadership. We in Barbados, and by extension, CARICOM, we have produced a political leadership that is in the vanguard of global thought and global strategy about dealing with the many crises that afflict the world. And we don't want to run the danger of having a leadership that is out there on the international stage, pushing the envelope, taking the vanguard positions, and our people, our population isn't there with them. So it is very important that we have this kind of communication. And it is very important that all of Barbadians understand the message that Prime Minister Mottley and her administration are bringing to the world. And what makes her speech so important is that, yes, many speakers came there and gave a litany of all the woes and crises that the world faces. But what distinguishes her speech is that she's not just dealing with woes and crises, but you get in the body of her speech that there's a strategy, there's a positive strategy for dealing with these problems. And she gives a report on to what extent the strategy is going forward, to what extent it is working, but she also admonishes, look, we are making progress here, there, but we're in danger of not doing enough. And also that we are in danger that if we continue to have these injustices in the world, that we will not have that global solidarity, that team approach that is necessary if we are to win the battle. So I chose 3 extracts from her speech. The first one really deals with the strategy that she is leading and that Barbados and CARICOM are leading, and that is unfolding, and the place of the Bridgetown Initiative within that strategy. So perhaps we could hear that first extract.
I ask us, therefore, my friends, to ensure that we summon the will. We listened to the Prime Minister of the Netherlands just now, and he reminded us ably that time is not on our side. And if time is not on our side, what must we do? The truth is, we have made some progress. 2 years ago, the International Monetary Fund did not have a mechanism to focus on cause of the problems that led to massive macroeconomic instability. We now have the establishment of the Resilience and Sustainability Trust that for the first time will make funds available to middle-income countries that are vulnerable. 20-year money with a 10.5-year moratorium. A year ago, the president of the World Bank was questioning whether there was a climate crisis. Today, we have a World Bank that for the first time acknowledges that there should be debt clauses that are suspended, debt pause clauses as they call it. Our battle now is to ensure that those debt pause clauses are not just for future instruments, but for existing instruments. If not, it will not help many. So we have made progress, but there is still much to be done. The issues of debt sustainability cannot be left on the sidelines, particularly with the number of countries, more than 60 countries facing debt row today as we speak because of the polycrises. Countries being forced to choose between development and building of resilience to fight climate. In our small island states, we value education and healthcare and the dignity of life, and therefore it will be anathema for us to tell our citizens that we do not have the space to provide for you those things that were the promise of independence. It is compounded by the failure of the developed world to accept that reparatory justice is a solemn obligation which we must confront. The conversation King Charles told us at the opening of the Commonwealth Heads of Government when he was Prince Charles was a conversation whose time had come, that of reparatory justice. But it can't be a slow conversation taken up when people feel like. It has to be a conversation in which equal partners discuss. It cannot be an act of charity of those who simply feel that their conscience must be cleansed. We were about to write the leaders of the European Union last year on this issue of reparatory justice, and we paused because of the Russian incursion into Ukraine. But it seems as though there are not those who want to make peace there or elsewhere in the world, and therefore we have to lift our finger off the pause button and resume the discussions, because the development deficit caused by centuries of exploitation is now affecting our capacity to build the resilience that is necessary in our nations. Similarly, I want to thank, because a year ago we did not have the Paris Agenda for People and Planet. We had the Bridgetown Initiative, and the Bridgetown Initiative has allowed us to keep the debate going, because we need to change, as I said Monday morning in this hall, the belief that we can have short-term money financing development and building resilience. I shan't go into all of the details because we don't have the time, but suffice it to say that we are committed to the twin battle of saving people and planet, and to ask us to do anything else is a false construct that does not work. The markets have to be educated as to why long-term capital is the only salvation for developing countries and ultimately for people and planet.
So that presentation from Prime Minister Mia Amor Mottley, what really stands out, of course, is her impassioned plea about reparatory justice.
Extract is the core of her message, that we have to save both people and planet. In other words, it can't be a choice between, oh, let us deal with the climate crisis, let us put all the resources into that, and let's forget about people getting access to education and healthcare and all the human development goals that we have for ourselves. That is a false choice. It must be people and planet. We must do both simultaneously. And she says one of the reasons why reparative justice is so important is, look, countries like Barbados, ex-slave societies, we have been miracle people. We were called upon because we were never given reparations. When reparations were due, we went into independence with no reparations, and we were called upon to perform miracles of development, to build real nations virtually from nothing with very little. And we have done well. But she's saying that with the challenges bearing down on us today, it's not just the challenges that we have known in the past of how to do development with very little resources, but it's now also the climate crisis and all of the challenges that is bringing for us. Now, more than ever, we need reparative justice. So it is, all of these things are interlocking, but the fundamental message is that the system needs to change. The system that was developed close to 100 years ago that did not really take into account developing countries, the black and brown people of the world. It now has to transform itself to put those countries and those people to the forefront because we have a right to development because of all that we went through, all of the plundering and looting of our resources over centuries. There's a developmental deficit, and the system must be reformed to honor our right to development. And it can't be planet or people, it has to be both.
Absolutely. Now, I know that we wanted to feature two of the other very, very impactful parts of Prime Minister Mottley's speech. Unfortunately, we are already at the end of our time where she addressed Haiti and also what's happening in Venezuela. So, just to close out this particular session, looking back on our appearance really at the U.S. General Assembly just concluded our showing. I guess we'd say that we definitely got a lot of attention, got a lot of information out there, and shared on many of the initiatives that we want to be center stage for the next few years.
Yes, most definitely. Perhaps next week we could look at those extracts that deal with Haiti because CARICOM is really struggling with Haiti. We're trying our best, and Prime Minister Mottley puts it into very good context. And also, she went on to deal with not just Venezuela, but also Cuba. And she made a very important point. Look, it's not just, there are tremendous injustices being meted out to Cuba and Venezuela. But it's not just about correcting those injustices, but it's about the idea that we cannot have those injustices in a world where we really need solidarity. We need to bring all of the countries of the world together in a team, TEAM, to solve the world's crisis. But yes, Barbados and CARICOM are continuing to play a very, very important role on the world stage, and that is not surprising in light of our history. We understand these things well because we were the most victimized and oppressed and exploited people on this planet for centuries. So we come from that history, and because of that history, we have a sense of the sacredness and the preciousness of all human beings, And so when you hear Prime Minister Mottley speaking so passionately about countries on debt row, she's not speaking about Barbados, but we understand what many of our brothers and sisters on the African continent in particular, because many of those countries on debt row are fellow African countries. So she's speaking not only for us in the Caribbean, she's speaking for broader humanity. And we are doing very well, Tisha, and it's important that our people appreciate this.
Absolutely. I want to thank you as always, Ambassador, for summing up all that has gone on this week. We certainly have lots more to talk about. So thank you once again. Very informative session for conversations on CARICOM. Today, of course, conversations on CARICOM and beyond.
My pleasure as usual. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Absolutely.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.